Hello, fellow Rebel Capitalists. Hope you're well. I'm sure everyone right now is wondering why on earth the rent is continuing to go up. If housing prices are at an all-time high, although they've come off a little bit, but housing prices are nosebleed levels and rents just keep going up and up and up and up. What is going on here? At some point, don't people run out of money? They run out of purchasing power. Therefore, they can't afford to continue to pay the higher and higher and higher rents. I mean, the math just doesn't work. Doesn't make any sense. But let's shoot right over to this Zero Hedge article. And I think I've got some answers for you. Let me do my screen share. There we go. Okay, now let's go over to that Zero Hedge article. Headline. And, I didn't even know this, but the Biden administration now is allowing states to spend Medicaid money on food and, you guessed it, housing. Many of you know I have a mastermind group with Kenny McElroy and Jason Hartman. And we've got about 30, 35 members. And we do kind of monthly calls. And most of our members are like Kenny. Like they're big time multifamily real estate owners. Our mastermind group doesn't really focus on real estate. It's just because most of the people find out about it through Kenny or Jason, they tend to be real estate investors, but they're more like rebel capitalists. It's yes, they're interested in real estate, but they're more so interested in freedom, liberty, and free market capitalism. But anyway, on these calls, I get a lot of insider information as to what is happening, boots on the ground intel with not only multifamily, but single family rental properties throughout the United States. Granted, most of our members have properties in what you would call maybe red states or landlord friendly. So that would be Arizona, Texas, Tennessee, Florida. Not many of our members have properties in California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, stuff like that. But anyway, on our last call, they were telling me how a lot of their tenants are paying rent through subsidies. And I said, subsidies? What? Is that even a thing? I didn't know we're still doing that. I'm like, is it from the cerveza sickness, or how are they coming up with these subsidies? It's not Section 8. Like, no, we're not doing the Section 8. And they say a lot of the state and local governments now have all of these housing benefits that were from what they thought were from the cerveza sickness that just haven't been spent yet. And now those politicians at a local level are trying to buy votes by basically giving people rent stimmies. But this adds a whole new light, or shines a whole new light on that discussion, because it seems, if this is right, we're going to keep reading here, that the Biden administration is saying, okay, all of this Medicaid funding that has usually gone to the states specifically for healthcare related, now politicians at a local level, you can start divvying this up into food stimmies or house stimmies in order to buy votes. And this would completely explain how real wages have gone down, but the price of houses since 2020 and the price of rent has pretty much gone straight up. If people aren't making any more money, they don't have any purchasing power. Something has to give. So how are both going up at the same time? Well, because maybe their income is decreasing in relationship to inflation, but their purchasing power is not. Why? Because of the additional benefits, we'll say, coming from the federal, state, and local governments, in this case, directly pertaining to housing. Now I'm going back to the article. The Biden administration has started to grant states requests to utilize Medicaid funding to pay for non-medical health related needs like groceries and housing support in order to decrease the need for medical intervention. So this is their angle. And boy, nobody can spin or take an angle or figure out an angle like a seasoned politician. That is for sure. And this is a perfect example. So they're saying, okay, well, we've got all this money and it's kind of earmarked for Medicaid and healthcare, but boy, we're not able to buy a lot of votes with that. So we need something new. We need to unlock these funds to pander to the constituents, to prompt them, let's say, to vote for us in the future. How do we do this? Oh, I know. Here's the angle. Why didn't I think of this before? If you can't buy food, if you can't pay your rent, well, your health will deteriorate. Your health will suffer. And if you can't eat, then you'll have to go to the hospital. So if we give you money to eat, well, then it's basically like a healthcare cost. This is or maybe angle is a dramatic understatement. These are the mental gymnastics, the pretzel logic, as Jeff Gunlock would say, that politicians are experts at. Let's keep going down the article. October last year, the U.S. Centers for Medicaid Services approved a Section 1115 demonstration initiative. Sounds official. Sounds very well thought through. For Arizona, allowing the state to use Medicaid funds to pay non-medical expenses. Okay, so now they're saying they're non-medical expenses, but they're saying, well, they're kind of medical expenses because of the mental gymnastics that we were talking about earlier. Such expenses include community and transitional housing support and rent for individuals. Basically, can't afford to pay your rent? Here's some free money. It's just like you can't afford to put gas in your car. Well, we'll give you a gas dividend, as though that will somehow help. And you guys know from watching my videos exactly what's going to happen here. Is the landlords are just going to increase the rent till it gets to a point where the exact same amount of people can afford housing now that could have afforded housing 6 months ago or before the stimmy checks. It's just the prices adjust. Therefore, the net benefit is zero. And I would argue the net benefit is actually a negative because of the economic distortions, the malinvestment, misallocation of resources that have been created by this additional purchasing power that didn't come as a result of productivity. The granting of the request to use Medicare funding for non-medical expenses comes as policymakers are reportedly trying to determine whether food as medicine programs. Okay, so they keep bouncing back and forth here with their mental gymnastics. Are they non-medical expenses or are they medical expenses because food is medicine? I guess this is how they're trying to spin it. Like they're gathering in a group and they're saying, oh, we just can't buy enough votes with this stupid Medicare program. But boy, oh boy, if we just take a lot of those funds and allocate it to food and rent, woo-wee, the voters would love us. I think that's what it boils down to here. But why does this matter for you guys? Well, what this means is rent and food, whatever the government is subsidizing, which is what this is likely going to continue to go up in price. It's just like basically what they're doing is they're taking the student loan model that they have used so effectively over the last couple decades, and they're implementing the student loan model to gas, groceries, and rent. So you know darn well what has happened to the price of tuition. If this continues, expect the exact same thing to happen to gas, groceries, rent. whatever it is the government is subsidizing. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. As always, make sure that you're standing up for freedom, liberty, free market capitalism. See you in the next video.